Sinpo is a tired town on the eastern coast, where the factories are old, the paint is peeling, and the sea fog rolls in like a dirty blanket every evening. The streets are quiet, not because people are peaceful, but because they are careful. In Sinpo, you learn early that it is safer not to ask questions. Teenagers from the city are sent out to work on the communal farms outside town. They sleep in crowded dormitories with thin walls and broken windows. At night, the wind whistles through the gaps and the fog pushes in under the doors. The older students tell scary stories to the younger ones to pass the time. Stories about spirits that walk in the fields and soldiers who never came back from the war. Then one spring, the stories start to feel real. First, a boy does not show up for morning roll call. The team leader shouts, writes a report, and says he must have run away. A week later, a girl vanishes on her way back from the latrine. People whisper that she probably tried to escape to the south. The officials tell everyone to keep working and not to spread rumors. But the rumors grow anyway. Soon, bodies begin to turn up, found in ditches, in the edges of fields, near the narrow dirt roads that connect the farms to the town. Each time, the soldiers arrive fast. They shout at anyone who comes too close. They wrap the bodies in old sheets or plastic and carry them away on the back of a truck. No one is allowed to look for long, but everyone who catches even a glimpse notices the same thing: the way the stomach has been opened, the strange, careful cuts. No one dares say murder out loud. Instead, they talk around the truth. At the market, old women mutter that the sea has become angry and is taking the young as payment. A man swears he heard there is a wild animal in the hills. At night, in the dormitories and cramped apartments, the word ghost begins to spread. It is a safe word. It does not blame the state. It does not accuse the police. A ghost is something you can fear without getting arrested. The officials say almost nothing. A short notice appears on a bulletin board about accidents and carelessness. A radio announcement reminds people to follow work rules and stay indoors at night. No one mentions the cuts, the missing parts, or the growing number of funerals with closed coffins. Parents start walking their children to the farms themselves, even when it means getting up before dawn. Workers begin to travel in groups, eyes down, voices low. The fog, which was always there, now feels like a living thing. People say the ghost moves inside it, choosing who will be next. In the middle of all this quiet panic, there is a man no one pays much attention to. Park Myung-sik works at a factory that produces machine parts no one ever sees outside the country. He is thin and yellow-skinned, his shoulders hunched from years of labor and constant pain. When the siren sounds at the start of the shift, he lines up with everyone else, just another gray uniform in a row of gray uniforms. Park often presses a cloth to his lips when he coughs. Sometimes, when he lowers it, there is a small smear of red. His coworkers glance over, then look away. Sick men are useless. Useless men are dangerous to be seen caring about. The supervisor shouts at him for being slow. Park bows his head and apologizes, his voice barely louder than the hum of the machines. No one connects him with the missing teenagers. Why would they? He walks slowly, not like a hunter, but like a man twice his age. He lives alone in a small room with cracked walls and a bed that squeaks. At the end of the day, he shuffles home through the same fog that everyone else fears, clutching his side when the pain stabs deep. While the town talks about the ghost in the fields, Park moves silently through his routine. Work, hospital visits, long nights staring at the ceiling. He is there in the background of Sinpo's nightmare, unnoticed, as the bodies keep appearing and the ghost story grows stronger. No one knows yet that the real horror is not floating out in the fog. It is walking among them, coughing softly, wearing the same gray uniform as everyone else. For Park Myung-sik, life slowly shrinks into a narrow tunnel of pain and worry. Most days begin the same way. He wakes up on his thin mattress, the room still dark, feeling the dull weight in his side before he even moves. When he tries to sit up, the pain changes from dull to sharp, like someone has reached inside him and twisted. His mouth tastes sour. His eyes are yellow. He knows what this means, even if no one says the word out loud. His liver is failing. The hospital in Hamhung had once been his big hope. It was far from Sinpo, and people said important officials were treated there. Park waited hours in crowded corridors, sitting on hard benches among old women, soldiers, and crying children. The doctors were always in a hurry. They looked at his chart more than his face. They gave him injections, put him on a waiting list, then finally told him the truth in careful, empty phrases. His cirrhosis was advanced. There was little more they could do, and there were many other patients who needed the beds. He is sent home with a small paper bag of pills and a list of instructions that feel impossible. Rest, avoid alcohol, eat good food. Rest is for people who can afford not to work. Good food is for people who have money and ration coupons. Park has neither. What he has is a body that is slowly giving up and a factory job he cannot lose. At work, the machines are loud and the air smells of metal, oil, and sweat. Park moves more slowly now, careful not to pull at the tight skin over his swollen belly. When he pauses to catch his breath, the supervisor notices and snaps at him for being lazy. Some coworkers ignore him. Others make jokes just loud enough for him to hear. Look at him, already half a ghost. Maybe the party will fix his liver if he works faster. They laugh, then fall quiet when the supervisor walks past. No one wants trouble for real. No one wants to stand too close to a man who might soon disappear from the work unit lists. Park coughs often. Sometimes he feels something rise up in his throat and spits into his handkerchief. When he opens it, there are tiny, bright red spots. He folds the cloth quickly and stuffs it back into his pocket, pretending he has not seen them. It's easier that way. At night, his room feels smaller than ever. The ceiling has a long crack that looks like a river on a map. He lies on his back and stares at it, following the line with his eyes over and over until the shapes blur. Outside, he can hear the distant sound of waves and sometimes the faint whistle of a train. His body throbs with each heartbeat, as if his own blood is angry at him. He thinks about the future and sees almost nothing. He is not important enough to be missed by the state, not loved enough to be surrounded by family in his final days. If he dies, the factory will replace him in a week. His name will be crossed out in some office, and that will be the end of it. This is what it means to be already condemned for Park. Not a judge, not a court, not a sentence read out loud. Just the quiet, slow realization that his life is leaking away, and no one with power is going to stop it. The day Park hears about the fortune teller, it starts like any other. Long hours at the factory, the same noise, the same pain in his side. That we not let him forget he is sick. By the time the whistle finally blows, his shirt is damp with sweat and his legs feel weak. He walks out with the others, staying near the back of the group, trying not to draw attention. Outside the factory gate, the men light cheap cigarettes and complain about low rations and broken machines. Park stands a little apart, one hand pressed against his ribs. He thinks he is hiding it, but one coworker, a man named Choi who likes to gossip, notices. "You look worse every week," Choi says quietly. "What did the doctors say?" Park shrugs. "They say I should rest and eat better." He tries to make it a joke, but his voice sounds flat even to his own ears. Choi snorts. "Then they said nothing. If a doctor in Hamhung can't help you, no one can." For a moment, there is silence between them. Then Choi leans closer, lowers his voice. "Maybe not no one." Park looks at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Choi glances around to make sure no one is listening. The other workers are busy with their own complaints. He steps even closer. "There is someone else," he whispers. "A man who sees things, a fortune teller." The word alone makes Park tense. Fortune tellers, shamans, gurus, these things are officially nonsense, even crimes. Everyone has heard stories of people arrested for visiting them. Park licks his dry lips. "That's illegal," he says. "Dangerous." "Being sick is dangerous too," Choi answers. "You think the party will save you? They can't even keep the machines running." Choi's tone is mocking, but his eyes are serious. He tells Park that a few years ago, his cousin went to this man in secret when her child was very ill. The child got better afterward. Maybe it was luck, maybe not. In a place where real doctors are few and medicine is scarce, maybe is sometimes the best hope anyone has. Park listens, torn between fear and curiosity. The ache in his side pulses in time with his heartbeat, as if reminding him that time is not on his side. "Where is this man?" Park finally asks. Choi hesitates, then says, "On the edge of town, I can take you, but you didn't hear it from me. If you talk too loudly, I will deny everything." That night, after the streets thin out, they walk together through narrow alleys toward the outskirts of Sinpo. The houses here are older, leaning slightly as if tired. A single light burns behind a torn curtain in a low, crooked building. Choi stops. "This is it," he says. "I'll wait outside. I don't want to see anything." Park stands in front of the door for a long moment. His heart beats fast, from fear and from the climb. He knows that if he is caught here, it will go on his record. It could cost him his job. It could send him somewhere worse than the factory. But if he does nothing, he will die anyway. He lifts his hand and knocks. Inside, the room is small and smells of old incense and damp cloth. Shelves hold bowls, cracked cups, and bundles of dried plants. A middle-aged man with tired eyes sits on a cushion. He is not dressed like a holy figure, just in worn, clean clothes. He stares at Park for a long time before speaking. "You should not be here," the man says softly. "Do you want trouble?" "I'm already in trouble," Park answers. His voice shakes. "I'm sick. The doctors say they can't help. I heard you. You might know something else." The man sighs and looks away, as if this is a story he has heard too many times. "I read faces, dreams, small things," he says. "I cannot fight cirrhosis. I am not a god." Park drops to his knees despite the pain and bows his head. "Please," he whispers. "I don't want to die like this. I'll do anything. Tell me what to do." For a while, the room is quiet except for the faint ticking of something metal cooling outside. The fortune teller studies Park more closely now. The yellow eyes, the bloated belly, the desperate grip of his hands. "I could be arrested just for speaking to you," the man says. "They say what I do is superstition. They say only the state can heal." "The state has already given up on me," Park replies. "I have nothing left to lose." There is another long silence. The fortune teller looks almost angry, but not at Park. Angry at the whole situation, at a world where the sick come begging to a man who is not supposed to exist. Finally, in a low, tired voice, he says, "There is an old belief, a dark one. It is not something I should even mention." Park lifts his head. "Tell me." "In the old days," the man says slowly, "some healers believed that eating parts of the body, especially the liver, of a young and healthy person, could pass their strength to the sick. They believed the liver holds life. It is a terrible idea. It is not medicine. It is forbidden." He looks at Park as if hoping this will be enough to scare him away. Park's eyes widen. "You mean human livers?" "Yes." The man's mouth twists with disgust. "Do you understand now why I did not want to speak? This is murder, nothing else. No spirit would bless such an act." For a moment, Park actually lets out a weak, shocked laugh. The idea is too awful, too far from anything he thought he would hear. "I can't do that," he says. "How could I? I'm just a worker." "Good," the fortune teller says quickly. "Then forget what I said. Go home. Rest if you can. Accept what comes. Sometimes there is nothing else." But the words do not leave Park's mind. They sink in like poison. He leaves the small house, shaken and pale. Outside, Choi is waiting, stamping his feet against the chill. "Well?" Choi asks. "Did he give you something?" "No," Park answers. "He said nonsense, useless things." On the walk home, he says nothing more. He lies in bed that night, staring at the cracked ceiling, replaying the fortune teller's words again and again. The liver holds life. a liver of the young, forbidden, terrible, murder. He tells himself it is impossible. He tells himself he would never do such a thing. But as the weeks pass, his pain grows worse. His breaths become shorter. Each step to the factory feels heavier than the last. The memory of that cure follows him everywhere, like a shadow he can't shake. Slowly, against his will, the idea starts to change shape in his mind. It is no longer just a shocking story from an old belief. It begins to sound like a choice. Die slowly, as the state expects him to, or risk becoming something he does not yet dare to name. By the time Park decides to act, his world is nothing but pain and fear. Weeks have passed since the night with the fortune teller. Park has tried to forget those terrible words about livers and youth, but they keep coming back whenever the pain flares in his side. Each cough, each sharp stab under his ribs feels like a reminder you are running out of time. He tells himself he's a victim. He tells himself the state has abandoned him. He tells himself that if there were any other way, he would take it. One evening, after another long shift at the factory, he leaves later than usual. The sky is already dark. The air above Sinpo tastes of salt and smoke. Instead of going straight home, he turns toward the countryside, following the narrow dirt road that leads to the communal farms where the teenagers sleep. He has been here before, in the daytime, when work teams are sent to check machinery or deliver supplies. He knows where the dormitories are, long, low buildings with thin walls and badly fitted doors. At night, they look like sleeping animals on the edge of the fields. As he walks, his thoughts twist around each other. Part of him is horrified by what he is planning. Another part repeats the fortune teller's words like a prayer. The liver holds life, the liver of the young. He tries to think like a patient, not like a killer. He tells himself this is a kind of operation, a dark cure that no hospital dared to perform. When he reaches the dormitory area, the fields are silent except for the rustle of the wind through dry plants. From inside the building, he can hear soft sounds, coughing, snoring, a quiet laugh, someone turning over in their sleep. A weak bulb glows above the door, attracting a few tired insects. Park waits in the shadows for a long time, listening, forcing his breath to stay slow. His heart is beating too fast. His hands are slick with sweat, even though the air is cold. He has brought a knife, wrapped in cloth, hidden under his jacket. The weight of it makes him feel sick. He almost turns back. More than once, he takes a step away from the dormitory, only to stop as a wave of pain grips his side so hard that he has to lean against the wall. Tears sting his eyes. In that moment, he sees himself clearly, a man who will die slowly in a narrow bed, forgotten. The thought terrifies him more than what he is about to do. He forces himself to move. The dormitory door is not locked. It opens with a low creak. Inside, the air is warm and stale, heavy with the smell of sweat, damp clothes, and boiled cabbage. Rows of narrow beds line the walls. Teenagers are curled under thin blankets, exhausted from a full day of work in the fields. Park steps in quietly, holding his breath. The floorboards are uneven. Every tiny sound feels like an explosion in his own ears, but the sleepers do not wake. He walks slowly between the beds, his eyes searching for someone small, someone who looks weak, someone he can overpower quickly. He stops beside the bed of a girl who looks about 15. Her face is soft and round, her hair tied back with a piece of string. One arm lies outside the blanket, the hand half open, fingers relaxed. She looks peaceful, like a younger sister or a neighbor's child. For a second, Park freezes. This is not a body, not a liver, not a cure. This is a person. His mind screams at him to leave. But then pain flares again in his side, cruel and bright. His breath catches. His vision blurs for a moment, and in that blur, the girl's face becomes less clear, less human. In his head, he hears the fortune teller again. Young, healthy liver, only way to live. His fingers close around the knife handle as if someone else is moving them. He covers the girl's mouth with one hand and acts The struggle is short and clumsy. She fights, of course she does, kicking, twisting, trying to scream under his hand. A few beds away, someone mumbles in their sleep, then goes quiet again. Park's heart hammers. His body moves on fear alone. When it is over, he stands there shaking, his clothes disturbed, his breathing ragged. His treatment has begun. Outside, dogs start barking somewhere in the distance, sharp and sudden. The sound slices into his panic. Someone in the dormitory stirs. Park realizes he has almost no time. Fear slams into him. All at once he sees everything clearly. The knife in his hand, the bed, the girl who will not wake. He panics and flees. He stumbles out of the dormitory and into the cold night air, running blindly through the fog towards Sinpo. Branches scratch his arms as he pushes past them. His lungs burn. The barking dogs grow louder behind him, then fade. He does not know if anyone saw him. He does not stop to check. By the time he reaches the edges of town, his legs are barely holding him up. He presses himself into a shadowed corner between two buildings and wretches, but nothing comes. His body shakes so badly he can hardly stand. In his mind, two thoughts fight for space. What have I done? And I did it. The cure has started. He clings to the second thought because the first one is too big, too heavy. He tells himself that when his pain eases, when he starts to feel stronger, it will prove that this horror meant something. It will prove he had no choice. The next morning, whispers move through the farms and into the town. Someone says a girl from the dormitory was found badly hurt. Someone else says she died in the hospital later. No one talks openly about the condition of her body, only that it was strange and not like an accident. Park hears all this with a blank face. Inside, he is listening very closely to his own body. He waits for a miracle. He waits for the pain to fade, for his skin to clear, for strength to return. He looks for any sign that what he did has changed his fate. But the ache in his side is still there, heavy and cruel. His eyes are still yellow, his cough is still wet. In the days that follow, he sleeps poorly, waking from broken dreams where he is both the ghost in the fields and the boy in the hospital waiting room who is told to go home and die. His hands shake as he eats, but he forces himself to swallow, believing that somewhere inside him, this first dose is working. What he does not realize yet is that something else has started to grow in him too. Not health, not life, but a new kind of darkness. The ability to do it again. The first death could still be called an accident. The second could still be called a strange, tragic event. But after the third, no one in Sinpo truly believed in accidents anymore. Students sent to the communal farms begin disappearing in a pattern people can feel, even if they cannot describe it. A boy fails to return from the fields. A girl does not wake up in her dormitory. Another young worker vanishes while walking alone along the dirt road back to the village. Then the bodies start to appear. They are found at the edge of fields, near irrigation ditches, or beside quiet paths. Each time, soldiers and police arrive quickly, pushing away anyone who comes too near. People catch only a glimpse before the bodies are covered, but what they see is enough to make their blood run cold. The stomach torn open in a strangely careful way, the sense that something important inside is missing. Officially, nothing is wrong. A notice goes up on a board in town about workplace safety and following rules at all times. A loudspeaker reminds citizens not to walk alone at night and to avoid careless behavior. No one in authority uses the word murder. No one explains why so many young people have died or why their bodies look like that. The silence from above is so heavy that everyone feels it pressing on their backs. In that silence, a different kind of explanation starts to grow. At the markets, people lean close to each other over cabbages and potatoes, speaking in low voices. "I heard it was an animal," someone says, "a bear from the mountains." But there are no bears in these hills, and everyone knows it. Others say there must be a madman, but they do not say the word killer too loudly. Blaming a human being means blaming the police for failing to catch him, and that is dangerous. So the people of Sinpo choose a safer enemy. It's a ghost, an old woman whispers to her neighbor. A spirit from the sea, angry at how we live. A soldier who died long ago, another suggests. He wants young souls to follow him. The story changes a little each time it is told, but one detail stays the same. This ghost takes the livers of the young. No one is sure who first said it, but now it spreads like smoke through the town. That one detail matches what people think they saw under those dirty sheets and thin blankets, and it fits the old belief that the liver holds life and strength. Soon, children are scared to go out after dark. Parents grip their hands tightly on the way to the farms, pretending they are only being careful about traffic or soldiers, not about invisible spirits. Workers form small groups to walk home, muttering prayers they would never dare say out loud in front of officials. The fog that rolls in from the sea each evening feels thicker, heavier, as if something is hiding inside it. The police are trapped between fear and pride. On the one hand, they have no real tools to solve a case like this. They lack modern forensics, training, and basic resources. On the other hand, they cannot admit it. To say there's a serial killer they cannot catch would be to say the state is weak. So in private, some officers mutter that maybe there really is a ghost. In public, they scoff at the idea and promise that the situation is under control. Patrols are increased. More uniforms appear on the roads at night, their boots crunching on gravel, their flashlights cutting through patches of fog. But no one is arrested. Another body is found instead. The legend grows stronger. For Park Myung-sik, this legend feels like both a shield and a nightmare. In the factory, he hears the stories the same way everyone else does. Men at the machines talk about the ghost with nervous jokes, saying they will carry garlic or charms in their pockets. Women at the market repeat what they heard from a cousin or a neighbor, a pale shape seen near the fields, a whisper in the dark, footsteps that vanish suddenly. Every time someone says the word ghost, Park feels a cold shiver travel up his spine, because he knows there is no ghost. He knows these deaths have a human face, his own. But he also sees how the legend protects him. The more people believe in a spirit, the less they look for a man. The more they blame the fog and the darkness, the less they question who might be moving inside it. The police, already clumsy and under-equipped, seem half willing to accept the idea of something supernatural. It is easier to blame a ghost than to admit there is a killer walking under their noses. At night, when Park lies awake in his narrow bed, he listens to the distant sounds of the town, a dog barking, a baby crying, the whistle of a train. He thinks about the stories being told in the dormitories and kitchens. In those stories, the ghost has no name, no past, no pain in his side, no yellow eyes. The ghost is simple. The man is not. Park tells himself that this distance between him and the legend means something. If they are talking about a ghost, then they are not really talking about him. He clings to that thought whenever guilt claws at him. He repeats his excuses in his head. He is a patient, not a monster. He is someone the doctors abandoned. He is just trying to live. Still, sometimes, when he catches his reflection in a dark window on his way home through the fog, he barely recognizes himself. His face looks thinner. His eyes seem hollow. For a brief moment, he wonders if he is becoming the very thing they whisper about, a figure that moves in the mist, tied to death and fear. Then he turns away and keeps walking, hiding not just in the shadows of Sinpo, but inside the story the town has created. As long as they believe in the liver-eating ghost, no one will see the desperate man who made that legend real. At first, Park waits like a patient after surgery, expecting the change to be slow but certain. He wakes up each morning touching his side, checking his skin, trying to feel some sign that his treatment is working. Maybe the pain will be weaker today. Maybe his eyes will look a little less yellow. Maybe his steps will feel lighter on the way to the factory. Nothing changes. The same stab of pain greets him when he sits up. the same heavy tiredness follows him through the day. He still coughs into his handkerchief and still sees those small red spots when he dares to look. His body, which he has already risked everything to save, refuses to reward him. Days pass. Another victim, then another. Each time he tells himself, this one will make the difference. Maybe the first liver was not strong enough. Maybe the second was too weak, the third too thin, the fourth not truly healthy. He starts to talk about his victims in his head the way doctors talk about medicine: doses, strength, effect. On the outside, Park still looks like a sick, tired factory worker. On the inside, his thinking is changing in ways he barely notices. He stops saying, "I killed someone" in his thoughts. He starts saying, "I tried another way to live." He stops seeing faces. He starts seeing organs, imagining them, convincing himself they are his only hope. But no matter how many times he repeats this to himself, the truth does not bend. His cirrhosis does not get better. The pain in his side grows sharper, not softer. Sometimes he has to lean against the factory wall just to stay standing. His body is quietly proving that the old belief was wrong, or that the fortune teller's advice was madness from the start. Instead of waking him up, reality pushes him deeper into denial. Each failure makes him more desperate. Instead of thinking, "This doesn't work, I should stop," he thinks, "I haven't done it right yet." He searches for reasons. Maybe he waited too long between treatments. Maybe he needs livers from stronger teenagers. Maybe he has to act more often, more quickly, before his own liver fails completely. Outside, the town of Sinpo is drowning in fear. People refuse to go out after dark. Teenagers beg not to be sent to the farms. Parents whisper that they would rather be punished for disobedience than risk their children becoming the next body on a stretcher. The legend of the ghost grows darker with each new death. Inside Park's head, another storm is raging. He starts to avoid bright light and mirrors. It's easier to move through the world when he does not have to see his own face. Food tastes like dust in his mouth, but he forces himself to eat, telling himself he has to stay strong enough to keep fighting. When he walks past groups of workers talking about the killings, he feels both terrified and strangely separate, like they are discussing someone else's life. Sometimes, late at night, guilt hits him all at once. He remembers a hand grabbing his sleeve, a pair of eyes wide with fear, the small sound of someone trying to scream. For a few moments, the weight of what he has done crushes him. His chest tightens, and he thinks he might be sick. But then another wave of pain rises from his failing liver, and with it comes fear of death. Cold, pure, simple. That fear is stronger than guilt. He clings to the idea that there has to be a reward for what he has done, that suffering must buy survival. If he admits that all of this has been for nothing, then he has not only killed, he has killed for no reason. So he lies to himself, over and over. One more time, the next one will work. I can't stop now. I've already gone too far. The strange result is that even as his body weakens, his need to kill becomes stronger. He is no longer just a sick man who crossed a line once. Now he is trapped on the other side of that line, with no idea how to get back. Every step toward another victim feels like both a crime and a continuation of treatment. In his mind, they are mixed together so tightly that he can no longer tell them apart. The town sees only the pattern of deaths and calls it the work of a ghost. The police see a growing problem they can't solve and call it a threat to order. Park sees something else entirely. A terrible, endless experiment he cannot bring himself to end. And a cure that, no matter how much blood he spills, never comes. While the people of Sinpo talk about ghosts, the people in offices talk about numbers. On paper, the problem is simple. Too many young workers are dying, and because of that, too much work is not getting done. Reports begin to move up the chain, carefully written, using safe words. They avoid saying serial killer. Instead, they speak about unusual incidents, declines in discipline, and repeated accidents involving youth on rural assignments. No one wants to be the first to write the word murder in an official document. If they are wrong, they will be blamed. If they are right, they are admitting that the state has lost control. But even with soft language, the numbers are clear. Fewer teenagers are arriving at the farms. Parents are resisting assignments. Some work teams are late or refuse to move at night. All of this means less production, and less production is something the higher-ups cannot ignore. In small, crowded offices, local officials argue quietly. One says, "If we keep calling these accidents, no one will believe us." Another replies, "If we admit there is a killer, they'll say we failed to protect the people." No answer feels safe. The police complain that they don't have the tools or training to handle this kind of case. They have no modern forensic lab, no computers to track patterns, no freedom to question things too loudly. They're expected to solve a problem without ever fully naming it. Slowly, another idea begins to form, not shouted, but hinted at, passed in quiet conversations and cautious notes. If there really is one person behind all these deaths, maybe he can be useful. Not useful as a citizen, of course. Useful as an example. The logic is cold but simple. The state has banned shamans, fortune tellers, and all superstition. Yet everyone knows such beliefs still survive in the shadows. People still whisper prayers, still visit hidden healers, still trust old stories more than official slogans when they are scared or sick. The government hates this, but it has never fully stopped it. Now, in Sinpo, there's fear, death, and talk of a ghost. Somewhere in this mix, officials see an opportunity. If we find him, someone suggests, we can show the people what superstition does. We can say, "Look at this man. Look how belief in forbidden things turned him into a monster." In this way of thinking, the killer is no longer just a criminal. He becomes a tool, a lesson, a symbol of what happens when you step outside the approved path. The message will be simple. Don't go to fortune tellers. Don't believe old stories. Don't trust anything except the party. So even before they know who the killer is, the story about him is already being prepared. Somewhere, a draft speech is written that talks about the danger of unscientific beliefs. Somewhere else, a list of phrases is made for newspapers and meetings. Moral decay, poison of superstition, betrayal of the people's trust. The killer does not have a name yet, but he already has a role. Down in the streets, people still speak of a ghost who eats livers. In the fields, teenagers still look over their shoulders when the fog rolls in. But far above them, in rooms they will never see, the ghost is being quietly reshaped into something the state understands better than any spirit. A single, human monster they can put on display. They still need to catch him, of course. They still need a real man to stand in the courtroom and carry all the blame. But in their minds, the ending is fixed long before his arrest. One man will be responsible. One man will be punished. And the system itself will walk away clean, pointing at him and saying, "See, it wasn't us. It was him. And the beliefs we told you not to trust." By October 1990, Park is exhausted in every way a person can be. His body is failing, his mind is twisted by fear and guilt, and the town around him is drowning in stories of the liver-eating ghost. He tells himself that one last treatment will decide everything. If it works, he will live. If it doesn't, he cannot imagine what comes next. He chooses his moment carefully, or so he thinks. Another group of students is being sent to the communal farms, just like all the groups before them. Teenagers carrying small bags, school badges on their jackets, trying to look brave. Among them is a young student traveling alone along the road outside Sinpo, heading to the farm where he has been assigned. Park watches from a distance, his heart pounding. The fog is beginning to thicken. The road is quiet. It feels to him like the last chance he has been begging for. He follows the student at a distance, waiting until there are no other people in sight. His mind is full of the same arguments he has used to excuse every step so far. "I am already dying. The doctors left me to rot. This is my only hope." He repeats them like a prayer, trying to quiet the part of himself that is screaming to stop. When he finally moves, he moves quickly. He grabs the student from behind the way he has done before with others, one arm around the chest, the other hand reaching to cover the mouth. But this time, things do not go the way he expects. The student fights back with full strength. He kicks, twists, and shouts, his voice breaking free into the cold air before Park can shut it down. Park, weaker than before and slowed by his illness, struggles to keep hold of him. The boy's elbow slams into his ribs, sending a sharp knife of pain through his swollen liver. For a second, Park can't even breathe. The struggle spills into the road. The student manages to tear himself free and run, shouting for help as loudly as he can. Park tries to grab him again, but his body refuses to obey. His hands feel clumsy. His legs suddenly feel like they are made of stone. The moment is gone. Panic hits him like a wave. He runs. He stumbles down the road in the opposite direction, clutching his side, gasping for air. His heart is hammering so hard it hurts. All he can think is, "They heard, they saw, it's over, it's over." For the first time, the idea that he might be caught feels real, not like some distant, hazy threat. In the past, the fog and the fear of the ghost protected him. People stayed indoors, roads were empty, noises in the dark were ignored. But now the town is awake to danger. The student's cries echo along the road. Nearby citizens, already on edge from months of rumors and deaths, react at once. A group of people, workers, maybe some local militia or paramilitary, see a man running oddly down the road, sweating, limping, looking over his shoulder. He fits too well with the picture they have built in their minds. Not a ghost, but a stranger, a suspicious figure. They shout for him to stop. Park tries to move faster, but he is too slow. His illness, which drove him to these acts, now betrays him in the most direct way. They catch him, wrestle him to the ground, and hold him there. He struggles weakly at first, then goes limp when he realizes there is no escape. To the people holding him, he is just a frightened, thin factory worker in worn clothes. But they have already decided that this is the man they have been afraid of in the fog. They drag him, still protesting in a thin, broken voice, to the nearest police station. The interrogation that follows is not long or clever. Park has never been strong, not in body, not in will. He has lived his life obeying orders, bowing his head, saying yes to survive. Sitting on a hard chair in a small room, facing officers who are finally sure they have something solid to present to their superiors. He feels whatever is left of his resistance melt away. At first, he tries weak denials. He says there has been a mistake. He says he only wanted to scare the student. But the officers press him, one question after another, hour after hour. They talk about the other bodies, the pattern, the livers. They mention the ghosts the town has been whispering about, and ask him if he knows why people would say such things. Something breaks. Maybe it is the pain in his side, pulsing steadily like a reminder that his cure has failed. Maybe it is the weight of months of guilt and fear. Maybe it is simple exhaustion from a lifetime of being too weak to fight. Whatever the reason, Park finally stops trying to protect himself. He starts to talk. He tells them about the first night in the dormitory, about the girl who died the next day. He describes the students on the farms, the walks along the roads, the bodies left behind. He talks about cutting them open, about what he took and why. The officers listen and write everything down. For the first time, the ghost in the fog has a voice, details, a human shape. When they ask him why, the story takes another turn. Park speaks about his illness, the hopeless days in the hospital in Hamhung, the doctors who told him to go home and rest, as if rest could stop his liver from dying. He tells them about the coworker who whispered a name, about the secret meeting on the edge of town, about the fortune teller who finally told him the cure no one else would say: eat the livers of the young. He admits he was horrified at first. He admits he ignored it until the pain became worse than his fear. He gives them the fortune teller's name and every detail he can remember. The police write that down too. Later that same day, the fortune teller is arrested. He will soon be given his own role in the story the state has been quietly writing, the man whose forbidden words created a monster. For now, though, the main thing is this. After months of fear, rumors, and ghost stories, the people of Sinpo finally have a real person to blame. The liver-eating ghost is no longer a shape in the fog. He is a thin, sick factory worker named Park Myung-sik, sitting in a small room, confessing to 12 murders that he says he committed in order to live. After Park's confession, things move very quickly, at least on the surface. For months, the police had looked weak and confused. Now, with one thin, sick factory worker in custody and a signed confession in hand, they finally have something they can show to the public and to their superiors. Inside the reports that go upward, the language changes. The unusual incidents and accidents are suddenly described as the crimes of one man, Park Myung-sik, a factory worker from Sinpo, who killed 12 teenagers between April and October 1990. A year later, in mid-October 1991, his trial is held before the People's Court in Sinpo. It is not a slow, complicated legal battle. It is closer to a performance with only one possible ending. The judges already know the official line. Park is the killer. His crimes terrified the people. The state, once informed, acted firmly and decisively. Their job is not to search for doubt, but to turn his story into a clear message. Park is brought into the courtroom in simple clothes, thinner than ever. The cirrhosis has not stopped. His illness did not pause to reward him for what he did. He pleads guilty to 12 counts of murder. There's no real defense, no attempt to argue about evidence or insanity. He speaks softly about his pain, about the hospital that sent him away, about the fortune teller who told him that human livers could save him. But in this room, those details are not used to understand him. They are used to shape him into exactly what the state needs, a living warning about the dangers of superstition. The fortune teller is there too, dragged into the light after years of working in the shadows. He is not accused of killing anyone with his own hands, but the court treats his words as a kind of weapon. By telling Park about the forbidden cure, they say he set these murders in motion. For that, he will also be punished, though not with death. According to later reports, he receives 15 years in a penal colony, a sentence he is said to serve in full before being released and quietly deported to another province, his later fate unknown. In the courtroom, however, no one talks about his future. He stands beside Park like a second shadow, the perfect co-villain in the story the regime wants to tell. One man who believed in forbidden things, and one man who dared to speak them. And the victims? They are barely mentioned as individuals. There are numbers, 12 dead, 12 lives taken, 12 families in grief, but no names read out, no personal histories, no photos placed on tables. Under North Korea's tight control of information, the students Park killed remain mostly faceless. Teenagers sent to rural work, young workers on communal farms. Their parents, if present at all, sit in silence, watching a trial that has already been decided without them. For the officials, this silence is useful. The fewer details the public has about the victims, the easier it is to shape the narrative around Park and the fortune teller alone. Pain is reduced to statistics. Grief becomes background noise behind the loud, clear message. Do not trust superstition. Do not step outside the path the state has set for you. When the time comes for the verdict, there is no suspense. The court announces that Park is guilty of 12 murders. He is sentenced to death by firing squad. The words are formal, sharp, and final. There is no talk of his illness now, only of his crimes. Somewhere on paper, the dates are written. Crimes from April to October 1990, arrest on October 15th, 1990, execution in October 1991. A human life is turned into a small block of text, a line in a file. In that moment, Park feels two truths at once. First, he knows he deserves punishment. He has killed 12 young people. No amount of pain, No failure of the hospital, no whisper from a fortune teller can erase that. Their faces, which he tried so hard to turn into simple doses or treatments, returned to him in flashes, eyes wide with fear, hands grabbing at his sleeves, the weight of bodies that never moved again. Second, he understands that he has become more than just a murderer. He is now the perfect scapegoat. All the fear that had been floating through Sinpo's fog, the ghost stories, the whispers about police incompetence, the quiet anger at a system that let people die without answers, has been gathered up and poured into him. He is no longer a sick, desperate factory worker who made horrific choices. He is the monster, the organ harvester, the one name everyone can blame. He sees in a sudden moment of clarity that he has been dying twice. Once as a patient, slowly abandoned by the very system that was supposed to care for him. And now as a criminal held up by that same system as proof that the real danger was never its failures, but the forbidden beliefs it drove underground. The verdict is read. The sentence is fixed. Guards move to take him away. Behind him, the victims' families remain mostly unseen and unheard, their children reduced to pieces of a cautionary tale. Ahead of him lies a firing squad and a shallow place in the ground in Sinpo, where his story, in the eyes of the state, will officially end. But inside Park's mind, a bitter thought takes root as he is led from the courtroom. He was a killer, yes, but he was also a tool, used by a system that needed a monster more than it ever needed the truth. When the bullets hit Park Myung-sik in 1991, the state drew a line under his story. In the official version inside North Korea, the case was simple and complete. A timid factory worker became a cruel killer because he listened to a forbidden fortune teller. The police, once aware, caught him. The court judged him. The firing squad ended the danger. Order was restored. For people in Sinpo, life had to go on. The fog still rolled in from the sea. Teenagers were still sent to farms, parents still worried, but now they had a name and a face to attach to their fear. The government could say, "The killer is dead, the problem is solved." And under that message, a quiet warning was repeated. Never trust superstition, never visit fortune tellers, never look for answers outside the state. Years passed. Outside North Korea, almost no one had heard of Park. The country was closed, its news tightly controlled. What happened in Sinpo stayed in Sinpo, printed in newspapers most of the world could not read. Details of the case survived in a few state-run articles and in the memories of people who would never be allowed to speak freely about it. Then in 2006, Park's story slipped through a crack. A South Korean outlet that focuses on North Korea, Daily NK, picked up the old state report and wrote about the case. Their article did not praise the system. It criticized it. It pointed to the poor tools of the North Korean police, the heavy censorship, and the way the regime chose to highlight this one killer while hiding many other forms of suffering. From there, Park's name began to travel beyond the peninsula. Over time, his story turned into content in other countries. True crime podcasts, YouTube channels, and online articles started calling him the organ harvester, or the liver-eating North Korean cannibal killer. They repeated the main points: 12 teenage victims, livers taken to cure cirrhosis, capture after a failed 13th attempt, and added their own style and commentary. In many of these retellings, Park became a symbol of how strange and dark North Korea could be. A shocking example used to grab attention. So the same case was now serving two very different messages. Inside North Korea, it was used to say, "This is what happens when you trust forbidden beliefs instead of the state." Outside North Korea, it was used to say, "This is what happens inside a secretive, broken system that fails its own people." In both versions, something important was missing. The 12 teenagers remained almost invisible. Their names, their families, their dreams, none of this was widely known. They were victims, students, workers, but not full people in the public record. The fortune teller, too, faded into a few short lines. 15 years in a penal colony, release in 2006, moved to another province, fate unknown. And Park himself, The sick factory worker who once coughed blood on the shop floor was frozen in a single role: monster. His illness, his fear, the way the health system failed him, all became side notes in a story that needed him to be simple. For the regime, he had to be a clear lesson about superstition. For foreign media, he had to be a clear example of North Korean horror. In both tellings, the rough edges of his humanity were sanded down until only the label remained. That is the last twist in this story. Park believed that eating livers would let him steal life from the young. He killed 12 times and died anyway. His cure never worked. But in a different way, something was harvested in Sinpo. Not organs, but truth. Pieces of what happened were cut out, cleaned up, and served to the public in carefully shaped stories, sometimes to defend the regime, sometimes to attack it, but almost never to fully honor the dead or face the complexity of the living. Park Myung-sik is gone. The victims are gone. The fortune teller has disappeared into silence. What remains is a story that changes depending on who tells it and what they want it to prove. And that leaves one last question hanging in the fog over Sinpo. In a place where even reality can be carved up and repackaged. Who is harvesting whom? And how much of the truth will we ever really see?